I think one of the biggest mistakes you can make in the creative industry and perhaps other industries as well is not pursuing a perfect fit with your clients. And you might argue that a perfect fit doesn't exist, but there are at least some principles and some strategies we can go by. And that's what we're going to be talking about in today's show. So if you're into branding, the creative industry, entrepreneurship, and the types of things we talk about here, be sure to subscribe and also give us a like if you enjoy the content. I am your host, Steve Reed, and this is Brand or Die. Seeking a perfect fit with clients. Now, this can be difficult in a variety of ways, but this is proclamation number 6 of the Win Without Pitching Manifesto by Blair Enns. And so we're going to be talking about how we do this, some of the obstacles that you can run into when trying to select those perfect fits, why it's so hard. And there are some really great things in this particular proclamation that I have found very, very helpful. And it's something that I've just had to get better and better and better with over time because I've had to overcome my old way of doing things. When you've been doing certain things the wrong way for years and years and years, it takes a lot sometimes to overcome. So let's go ahead and dig in to the first quote here. And this is right from the beginning. Each chapter has kind of a quote that goes along with the proclamation. And this one says, instead of seeking clients, we will selectively and respectfully pursue perfect fits, those targeted organizations that we can best help. And that's the key there, is we're looking for people that we can help the best. And certainly there are many, many clients that we can do work for and we can help, but who can we best help? We're going to get into why that's important. Because I think when you're struggling for work or you're very general in what you do, you're going to take anything that comes across your plate. And sometimes in the beginning, that's what you have to do, right? You have to just take every job that comes to the table. You're trying to build a portfolio. You're trying to build up your client base. You're trying to make a name for yourself. Maybe you even don't really know who you want as a client yet as a business. You're just out there exploring. Well, it's a tricky thing to do. And my strategy was just to throw everything at the wall and see what stuck. And it led me down a certain path, but it kept me stuck as a generalist for a very, very long time. So it's been really, really important to try to figure out, okay, who is my ideal client? My skill set best helps who? Who am I best equipped to serve? And answering those questions has been very difficult because, and Blair Enns, we mentioned this in the past, he calls it the difficult business decision, is trying to decide who your services and your business itself best fits, right? What you're going to focus on as a company. So the latter part of this quote, he says, we will say no early and often, and as such, weed out those that would be better served by others and those that cannot afford us. By saying no, we will give power and credibility to our yes. And that's the whole thing. Man, if you're going to say yes to the wrong kinds of clients, you're going to be saying no to the right kinds of clients. And what I mean is if you say yes to the wrong kinds of clients all the time, then that's all you're going to spend your time doing is trying to help clients that you don't totally understand their industry. You're not exactly sure how to serve them. And you're just spending all your time learning and learning and learning. And you may never serve that type of client again. For example, let's say you're building a website for a pest control company.
Yeah, that's right. I'm bad.
If somebody comes to you and they just want to pay 50 cents for a website and that's not going to work, that's not going to sustain your business. You have to have an idea of what it's going to take to sustain your business, what's fair in the marketplace, and what's justifiable, right? And so by saying no to certain types of clients, Blair says we add credibility to our yes. So when we do take on a client, there are a lot of things being implied there. It's implying that we have the expertise, that we're going to be able to deliver, and that we're going to be able to serve that client in the best way. The general rule here is quality over quantity. We want quality clients. And this is fair to us as a business because we're getting the types of clients that we want and that we can help. And it's going to be fair to them as well because they're going to be dealing with a creative agency that understands them and has the tools to actually help them succeed. And there's not very much guesswork in there. We want to focus on quality over quantity. And it's all about just determining a best fit. Is this a good fit for me and for you? If it is, if we both feel like there's a good fit here, then we can move forward. If there's not a good fit on either side, then we shouldn't move forward. Even if they think that we're perfect for them, if we don't feel like we could best serve that client, it's probably best to refer them to another company that can. I had a prospective client, come to me recently, and they were talking to me about their business, and I'm just looking at it and saying, you know what, I don't really have any expertise here in your category of what you're selling and what you're doing. And so I just did a little bit of research really quick and looked up branding and creative companies that serve that particular category of business. And I found a whole list of really good companies. I just went and looked at their websites, looked at what they did, some of their case studies, just very fast kind of going through. And so I sent them some examples. I was like, these are the types of companies you want to be looking for. I was like, I can't endorse any of them because I've never worked with them, but these are the types of companies that would best help you because that's all they do. They're completely centered on serving that particular category, right? And so that's what I will do for people. I mean, I don't really consider that like a consultation or anything. I just figure if somebody came to me because of a referral or something, I still want to give them a little bit of value because they may come back to me in the future with something that does fit and say, you know what, this guy helped me back in the day. He didn't have to, but he pointed me in the right direction. And so I'd like to refer somebody else to him. And now that I know what his business does and who he serves, I may have a friend or an associate or someone. And so I feel like it's always a good thing to help other business owners if you can. And it doesn't take a lot of my time to just do, a couple of minutes of research and point someone in the right direction. It's kind of like a karma thing, right? It comes back to you later on. I've always found that that's the case. All of my business is from referrals. People just are very kind. They appreciate what I do for them, whether it's small or large, and they refer me, and I like getting clients that way. I found that good fits come from those types of referrals, at least in my experience. So selectivity also builds credibility. When you are selective and when you are focused on one particular type of business that you serve, that builds a lot of credibility because you can make a name for yourself in that space, and that sets you apart from everybody else. It's a huge differentiator, right? And so being selective, it may sound limiting, but it actually is very empowering. It amplifies what you're able to do. If you think of a lens, if you've ever taken, like, okay, when I was a kid, just like every boy probably does, there's a magnifying glass and you fry ants, right? The ants from South Texas, there's fire ants everywhere. They're horrible. They bite you and leave all these little welts on your stuff. And so I take out my revenge on the fire ants. But one of the things you learn is you got to get that lens focused just to the right point. And even though it's a very, very small point, it's extremely powerful, right? It will burn wood, and you could write your name in wood with it. That was another thing I used to do. But if you take that lens and you pull it back, that narrow point widens. And as it widens, all of those rays of the sun become less concentrated and diluted and therefore less powerful. So when you focus it downward and you focus all of that light into a single point, that's where the power comes in. And I think that's a really great metaphor for focus as a business and selectivity. The more that you concentrate your efforts and focus, the more powerful everything that you do is going to be. And I think if you learn that lesson, you're going to be a lot better off moving forward. It might be a little bit of a struggle. It may feel like it's outside of your comfort zone. It's likely going to feel hard. You feel like you're just throwing away money when you turn people down, but it has a cumulative effect over time. You become known for certain things and you can start moving in that direction. You can start becoming more selective. Even if you're very general right now, you can start today to be more selective in the types of clients that you take on and determine better fits. So it's not something that you just have to completely dump all of your current clients and start from scratch and go forward. You can ease into it, but still it's going to take that discipline of focus and taking on the right kinds of clients, knowing when to say no or when to point them to somebody else. Essentially, the client should be able to determine from a sentence or two whether our expertise is likely to meet his needs. Now, this could be referring to a website or an ad or a funnel or some type of communication where a potential client is going to come across it, learn about us. There should be at least a sentence, a headline to where someone can look at it and self-select into or out of pursuit of your business as a solution for them. You want to make it as obvious as possible who you serve, who you do business with, and what types of problems that you solve. That way they go, okay, yeah, this is for me. This is a good fit. And let the client self-select. And that weeds out a lot of people. That way you're not going to have a lot of people calling you. Let's say you only do websites for pet owners, right? You do pet-based websites and someone is coming to your site and they say, hey, we do branding and websites for pet-based companies. And somebody is wanting to build a website for a childcare company, right? Or they're a construction company or they're a plumber. They're going to see that that's not right for them and they won't even call you in the first place. But you're doing them a service. You're helping them realize before they even contact you if you're going to be a good fit or not. And the flip side is true. If somebody else is within that industry and they see your website, they're going to go, wow, this is exactly what I'm looking for. I need someone with this expertise. It's all about just being clear in your messaging. The narrower our claim of expertise, the more integrity that we earn. And this goes back to the whole idea of that focus as well. When we have a claim of expertise, it allows us to be true to that claim in all that we do. It allows us to stand for something and deliver accordingly. And the more that we focus our efforts, our learning, the building of skill, the acquisition of deep expertise, it's all going to be centered in that thing that we're focused on and what we're being selective about. And what that does is it gives us a great deal of integrity as business owners because we're able to remain true to those things and stick by them and stand by them in everything that we do. And when the fit is right, it's like putting on a pair of pants that just fits perfectly. You know that feeling? There's a special feeling there. We take precise aim at the smaller target and are happy to hit the wider market. Our claim of expertise should be a lot narrower than the sum of our capabilities. This was kind of an interesting part of the book, and it almost sounded like a contradiction to this proclamation a little bit, because he was talking about how, we narrow our claim of expertise down, we focus it, right? But then if someone comes along and they may need something that's a little bit outside of what we're claiming, that we can still work with that client. Because he says that usually when it comes to all the things that you have this claim of expertise, but there are other things you do as well. And those things may not at all be apparent on your website. Like you shouldn't just sit there and list everything that you do. It could be too much. Like I've done animation, illustration, website design, UX design, UI design. I've designed museum exhibits. I've designed animated banners. I've built WordPress themes. I could sit here and probably go down a list and talk about a million things. I've designed, yes, even tattoos. I've designed billboards. I've done direct mail. I've done email ads. I've done Facebook ads, Google. I mean, I could go on and on and on. The list of things that I've been involved in over the course of my career is like a mile long. I would have to like sit and write everything out. Now, my expertise is not equal across all of those things. My expertise is centered in one particular area. I'm very good at several of those things. Like when it comes to front end design, illustration, logo design, branding, I can honestly say I'm an expert in those particular fields. Very much so. But when it comes to some of the other things, I'm not the best animator, I wouldn't say. I'm kind of proficient at some of those things fairly. The result will look pretty good, but it's not going to be, you know, Pixar, Disney quality, right? And same when it comes to some of the other things. When it comes to brochure design, ad design, I can design really good stuff, but there's always going to be someone out there better than you. And there's people better than me at the things that I consider myself an expert in. But I don't list really most of that on my website or in any of my marketing material. I don't really talk about a lot of those things. But if a client happens to come to me, it's a branding client, and I'm just giving this as an example, and they need a website built and there's maybe an animated component there. Well, see, I have some specialty there where I could advise. I'd probably hire that out, outsource that portion to somebody that I felt like would be a perfect fit on that small little level. So there's the bigger fit of the client and your business, but then in the creative world, there are often smaller little portions. And so what I do is, let's say a certain type of website needs to be designed. Maybe it's not a WordPress site. Maybe it's all custom coded. Well, I work with other developers and I know other people that are good fits. So within my network of people, there are these mini perfect fits that I have to create. And if I know that I can create all of those fits, then I take that client on as a whole. And so it can kind of branch out a little bit, mini perfect fits within a larger perfect fit. I know that can sound kind of complicated, but getting back to this quote here, our claim of expertise should be a lot narrower than the sum of our capabilities. So even though you can do all of those things, your profession of expertise, your claim, should be much narrower than that. You want to center down on the core things that you do extremely well and who those services are best suited for. Expertise forces selectivity. Now, the more expert you become in one particular area, and especially in one particular category of business, it does force selectivity because you want to work with more businesses like that, with more businesses that you know that you can help because you have the tools to help them. And so the more that you deepen your expertise and sharpen it in a particular area, it's going to make it easier for you to focus on those types of clients because you know you can help them. The less expertise you develop, the more you're going to be a generalist. It's just a fact. And I'm not talking about like expertise in one particular area, but if you're always trying to go after everyone and everything, you're going to end up being like a kind of a jack of all trades. Now, there's a certain amount of utility to that. I once kind of prided myself on being like a MacGyver, so to speak. Like, you hire me and I can do everything. I'm like a one-stop shop. I do the jobs of like 10 different people. And so I took pride in that for a long time. I thought being a Swiss Army knife was a valuable thing to be. And it is at a certain level. Like, if you're working for a company and they need someone that can do a ton of different stuff, then that can come in handy. But the thing is like a Swiss Army knife, if you want to buy the best pair of scissors and the best toothpick and the best file and a really good knife, you don't buy a Swiss Army knife. You buy a Swiss Army knife because you want to have a bunch of tools that will get the job done in a pinch and have them all in one place. But when you're wanting to buy like the best knife, you're not going to go buy a Swiss Army knife. You're going to buy a company that focuses just on the knife itself and pays very particular attention to the exact form and functionality to get that perfect knife. And when it comes to like the other tools that are on a Swiss Army knife, you can buy a very nice pair of scissors. You can buy hair cutting scissors, to cut your hair with. You can buy scissors specifically for cutting paper. There's scissors for cutting like sheet metal. But the scissors on a Swiss Army knife are just general scissors. So anyway, that's kind of an analogy there. And so a Swiss Army knife can be purchased for a relatively low price because it's a bunch of cheap tools put together.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
The value is the combination of the tools. But there are pocket knives that you can buy that are $300-$400. You could buy 50 Swiss Army knives for that price. But when you're wanting to buy a good solid knife like with great steel that functions perfectly as a tool, you need that functionality for a specialized industry or business or career or whatever, then you're going to invest in the best possible solution. So who do you want to be? Do you want to be the generalist Swiss Army knife, or do you want to be that laser sharp specialist that can charge a premium because of the value you bring to the table, because of the expertise that you've gained? You've gone out, you've gathered up, you've created that expertise through trial, error, and experimentation, and now you're a polished weapon. You can do really good stuff out there for your clients. And that's the path I've chosen. And this is the kind of path that the book recommends, is to focus your expertise and be very, very selective in what you're doing. The generalist is drawn to the problem he has not yet solved. His curiosity trumps all else. And this is such a great statement, and it's something you should think about a little bit, right? Because it is true. And I know it's true from my own experience, because being a generalist for so long, I loved the fact that I could work with so many different types of clients. It was really interesting to have this type of client and that type of client. And I was curious. I liked stretching myself in different directions. And at one level, there's nothing really wrong with that, right? But I think the key thing here is, if you stay a generalist and you keep getting pulled in all different directions, you have to understand that you're never going to be as valuable as a specialist is going to be. It's harder to charge more when millions of other people can do the exact same things that you're doing. And just because you can do more of them at the same time, it may not matter to your clients because they're only hiring you for one of those things. And that one thing they can get for super cheap everywhere else. So there's really not going to be any value in being a generalist in the long term. It's not very sustainable unless your business wants to make very little profits. You have to do very high volume. And when you're just one person, that's hard to do. Now, if you're going to scale your business and you're going to hire a bunch of people under you and you're going to do massive volume, then you can focus on those generalist things. But if you're just going to be a small business or a solopreneur, if you're going to survive, you want to specialize. You want to become a specialist because you're going to be more valuable if you do. And honestly, that I think is the superior path if you're going to be in that type of business, and that's what you're going to do. So anyway, that's it for today. I highly encourage reading the entire proclamation because there's a lot of stuff that I didn't cover in there. Whenever I'm covering a book, I don't want to give away all the author's secrets. I want to support the book and encourage people to go out and buy it. It's very inexpensive, 138 pages, but it's packed with gold. You can buy it on Amazon or from Blair's website if you look it up, Win Without Pitching Manifesto. If you enjoyed today's show, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on anything. And I've heard that anytime somebody hits the like button, an ant is saved from a little boy with a magnifying glass. It's true. We'll see you on the next episode of Brand or Die.